Hi, and we are live here on Instagram, and at the same time, I'm recording for YouTube. Welcome everybody to today's Sunday live Q&A with a strategy consultant, with me, Johannes, and I hope you had a wonderful week, and I'm really happy to talk to you in this live Q&A. So if you have any questions, then please just write them as always in the chat, and I am more than happy to answer. I see people are joining the chat. Nivea, I say Rima, I say Sufin Taruf, I see Faiz Muhammad. Nice to have you all here. If you have any questions, then please write it down in the chat below. In the meanwhile, I will do a short recap about my week. So this week, again, was pretty intense. I posted that on Instagram. So we had a steering committee on Wednesday. Of course, if you have to prepare for a steering committee, this is always a lot of work because there the entire top management is present, and of course you want to have a great presentation. Then on Thursday, I had a meeting with the top 40 executives from our client, and we had to do a presentation there. So this was, again, very intense. Directly after that, we have a 4-hour sales workshop with people from the organization. And the entire Friday, we had an 8-hour workshop with the engineering department. And this was, quite intense. And I didn't get much sleep this week, to be honest, and it was pretty tough. But fortunately, we had a weekend, and yesterday I took some time to get some sleep because, as always, it's quite intense during the week. But at the weekend, if you work in consulting, you really have to take the time to rest, to sleep a little bit, to recharge your batteries. Otherwise, it's not sustainable, and you won't do that for very long. So glad that you are all here. If you have any questions, then please write them in the chat. In the meanwhile, I received some questions on Instagram, and the first question I want to go through is the question: if I would have any thoughts on an MBA, how it can accelerate your career, and when you should do it. And this question I get asked very often. Hi Isabel, nice to have you here. And this question I get asked very often: so should you do an MBA? Yes or no? And the question is always, it depends. So first of all, the first question is where you're living. If you're living in Europe, then you don't necessarily do an MBA because there you have more this Master of Science concept. If you work in the US or maybe in an international context or in other countries, then it's much more common to do an MBA. And how it works typically in the US or in the international world, then this is typically that you have your undergrads, then you work for a couple of years, and then you do your MBA. And this is typically, your entry ticket if you come from, or if you do an MBA at a very known or very renowned university. This is your ticket to get into consulting and to get into, top-notch strategy consulting. So my recommendation is always, if you are looking for an entry ticket to consulting, then doing an MBA at a top university is typically the easiest way to do so, because if you have this brand on your CV, then typically you get through the interviews, or at least you get invited. So I highly recommend that. This is the easiest way. Also, I recommend that for people who want to switch their career. Very often I get the question, people are working for Big Four firms or for Accenture or a firm like that, and they want to jump into strategy consulting. What should they do? And I always say, the easiest way is to do an MBA, because this kind of levels up your CV. On the other hand, we also have to say that an MBA is very expensive. So depending on where you do it, you can calculate between 100K and 200K that you need to afford for this. And of course, in most cases, you have to take on some debt in order to finance that. So this is the other side of the coin. And you should really think about if you need that. And that's also always why I say, especially if in Europe, I mentioned it earlier, where it's not that common to do that, you don't really need that, because there you have, very good education systems that are also for free, very good public universities. Then there you can simply do your Master of Science. And this is typically for free, or at least, or at least, for very little money. So there you don't need it. If you work in the US or in from another country, then, it's definitely helpful. Good. Then Next question. What is the major difference between the job responsibility of a business analyst and a management consultant? So a business analyst is typically one step below the consulting level. So typically in the large consulting firms, if you go there or in there as an undergrad, you're called an analyst or a business analyst. And once you have an MBA or something similar and some working experience, then you are a consultant. And basically, as an analyst, you work more in the back office. You are more like supporting with the slides, supporting with building the models, supporting with doing some research, while as a consultant, you're in most cases, at the client side and also more engaged like in, working on a project stream, really having this interaction with the client. And this is typically, the difference that as a business analyst, you have more responsibility about the back office activities. As a consultant, you have more responsibility of actually working in a project stream. Good. Any more questions, then please write them in the chat. I'm just looking if you have sent me some questions. Otherwise, if you have questions, then just write them in the chat. I'm happy to answer them. In the meanwhile, just have a sip of my tea. Good. So if there are no questions anymore, then let's keep it short today. We don't have to make it longer than necessary. Good. If you don't have any questions, then thank you for your time. As always, it was a pleasure to talk to you, and I wish you a great weekend. And okay, one more question. Is University of Liverpool a good choice to study business analytics? Well, I don't have that much of experience in the UK, but I would just take a look at the rankings. So I think the best source for checking the level of your university is if you check for the Financial Times ranking. So there you can check for the MBA programs and the Master of Science programs. And this just it's very tough to talk about individual programs because not all of the programs are ranked in this guide. But it's not that important what kind of program you have. It's more important, what kind of prestige the university has. So I would always check the Financial Times ranking, and if this University of Liverpool, is in the top, 50 or top 100, then you can definitely do it. But otherwise, if you say it's more ranked, I don't know, it's not even on the list, then this is a sign that maybe if you want to go to consulting, that you'd go for another university that is ranked a little bit higher. Okay, so it highly depends. So check out the rankings. For example, the ranking that I frequently use is the Financial Times MBA ranking, just to get an idea, to get a feeling about the prestige of this university. Good. Any more questions? Good. Then with that being said, thank you for participating. Hope you have a great evening. And next Sunday at the same time, we do another live session. With that being said, hope you have a great week. Talk to you tomorrow. Goodbye, Johannes.